Hello and welcome back to Digital Assets Daily. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in your corner of the world. About 650 U.S. banks will soon be able to offer Bitcoin purchases to 24 million customers. And I have another point I want to make shortly after on Bitcoin. So over 600 banks in the U.S. will soon be able to offer Bitcoin purchases to millions of customers across the country. And instead of holding crypto directly for customers, the banks will use NYDIG's custody service. And the deal comes between basically part of an NCR and NYDIG. So the deal between the NCR and NYDIG has opened the way to approximately 650 banks in the U.S., and they're going to offer Bitcoin purchases through roughly 24 million customers across the country. I want to get into this just a bit because the deal between the digital asset management firm NYDIG, a sister company of Stone Ridge Asset Management, and NCR, this will enable the community banks and credit unions to offer clients crypto trading through apps built by the payments provider. And again, now people are already familiar within the past year from the issue at hand. It's globally happening from the staying home, business closed, etc., banks shutting down, using exact change and cash, etc. Moving over to like the debit card and credit card and getting people more familiar with that, shopping from home, purchasing everything they need from home online. Having said that, in the U.S. last year, it was mandatory for banks to have digital wallets for all of their U.S. customers. So having said that, now it's very familiar. The past year, a lot of people have already gotten familiar. Even people that I've talked to that have no idea about cryptocurrencies or digital assets are now having discussions with me about their digital wallets. So as you get into the explanation of digital wallets, what they're for, what their design is, then they start realizing, oh, wow, this is going to hold digital assets, digital currency, virtual currency. And then it comes back to crypto. So then the discussion makes a full circle, and the typical person who knows nothing, sometimes it's the older, more conservative people who are a little bit, and I don't mean in any kind of political meaning, I just mean more reserved as far as their spending. They're very cautious and they are savers. I guess you could label them that way, the savers of the world who put their money in the savings account and continue to save monthly. As an investor, especially if you've been around a while or you've been investing for a long time, savings, which might have been good when we were young and the generations above us were young, might have been the way to go or the best thing to do. But today you can see investing, it's so much more significant than savings. Be very cautious. Having said that, now that I have said that, do research, get a financial advisor, learn a little bit about that, specifically about how your percentages and your gains and your safe investments, your long-term investments, the areas that are high risk, medium risk to low risk. Learn a little bit about that. I try to share some of that information from time to time here for investors as well, because there's so many new investors. You'd be surprised if you get into your routine and don't pay attention to that. But there's constant messaging that we get from new investors on discussions that are true, real, legitimate discussions from people who are wanting to learn. And this is the place to be because we're still early enough. I think we've moved a little bit more out of the wild, wild west, so to speak, from the pioneering days, because things are so much easier now than even from when I started. So the new investor who's coming in now is going to continue to have it easier and easier as far as the way they have to purchase their asset or the way they send their asset is so much more significant. And now when you look around, you can find answers and solutions, and you can find guidance on how to do it, where when we began, you kind of had to learn by just doing it. There was no one to turn to ask for help or guidance. So moving into that, the big deal with these wallets and all of the banks, people are now learning as they come to become investors, that this connects to the digital assets, the virtual currencies, in the digital currencies. So now they're learning, wait, if that is what my wallet is for, I've heard about things like Coinbase, or I've heard of Bitrue, Binance, through conversations or through their friends or through emails. And now there's lots and lots of advertising. I can't even turn on my TV without seeing a Coinbase commercial, which is great. And I'm actually seeing now, I don't know about you, a lot of the like crypto.com advertisements. So I personally do not use them, but it's very interesting to still see the advertisements. But going back into the article, this will enable community banks and credit unions to offer the clients crypto trading through apps built by the payments provider, stating, "We're firm believers in the benefits of crypto and the strategic application," said Douglas Brown, the NCR president of digital banking. And per the details of this arrangement, participating banks will be able to avoid the regulatory steps involved in holding crypto for their customers directly. Instead, they will rely on NYDIG's custodial services and will generate revenue by charging transaction fees, among other transaction services. And then I'm going to give you a point after this next paragraph because I think I want to finish off with that. I think you'll see cheaper transaction fees through the banks than what you might have today in the marketplace. But the banks do get to determine what they want that transaction fee to be. NYDIG's head of bank solutions, Patrick Sells. And the point I want to get into that with a lot of the banks, the big deal is the high transaction fees and the difference of the virtual currency of today. For example, let's stick specifically with if we're talking transaction fees and transactions and sending money, let's stay with Ripple and Stellar. Extremely fast and extremely low fees. This is what this is going to replace. So having said that, if you're having slow transactions and you're having high fees with things like Ethereum and Bitcoin, what is your best bet and what is the design? Again, let's jump back to XRP on that, especially with banking, with wholesale, enterprise, and institution. The fees, even though they might be significant for the banks, because the fee for the transaction with XRP is going to be so much lower, they're still going to make extensive profits. It's not a major deal, though they may be lower than what they are now. But I think overall, in my opinion, I see them as having such higher volume, such better closing, clearance, and settlements instantaneous. They're not going to have to follow back up with the IOUs or send money or have to spend more valuable hours dealing with that, getting the other banks paid. Having said, moving forward from that, I know that was very brief and vague, but having said that, moving forward, I think the banks are going to love it as much as you do as a user or as an investor or both. And I think that's going to be the triple play. But going back into NYDIG, it just flashes through my head like PolySign. And that's where we're going to see more of the custodial services like that can actually hold this, legally and have the regulatory guidance and clarity for the banks to be able to use them. So then the banks, therefore, in a roundabout way, can hold your crypto. That's how they're probably going to get clearance for that. The clarity for that is having that third party where NYDIG or something like PolySign can hold that for the bank, even though you're, end quote, letting the bank hold it for you. Got a little sidetrack there, but just my mind is just flashing through. I'm just seeing how close we really are. And it's only going to be so much. I believe, there's still going to be a lot of volatility, in my opinion, through the summer and fall. And then I think it's going to start moving. Whether we move up or not is irrelevant. I still believe there is going to be volatility through those 2 seasons. So I think as we get more into the end of fall, beginning of winter, I think that's where it's going to get a little more serious and we're going to move in a little bit more significant moves. That's just the way that I view it from all of the research I'm seeing. Doesn't mean we're not going to wait until then before we move. A lot of people confuse and misunderstand that. It means I believe we will slowly rise, drop back, and then we will launch. Now, ransomware group, the REVIL, pronounce it how you like, strikes again and demands 70 million USD in Bitcoin from 200 US firms. So Australia's ABC News reported on Saturday the REVIL had targeted software supplier Cassia and used its network management package to spread the ransomware via the cloud. Over 1 million machines are said to be infected, according to various other reports. And the Russian-based ransomware group is now demanding the Bitcoin in exchange for a decryptor for the infected machines. And on Friday, we launched an attack managed service providers. A post from the dark website Happy Blog reads, more than 1 million systems were affected. Without going too much further, that's enough to get to my point on this. I think I've spent a few months now showing the different attacks that they're having on Bitcoin. This obviously appears more like a payment provider than so much a direct attack. But what are they going to do is continue to say, okay, see, we've just shown you now the past few malware attacks have been paid in Bitcoin. They're going to immediately link that to Bitcoin being used for bad services. Not so much bad services were done, and that was just an acceptance of payments, because you know that you can trace a Bitcoin address on the blockchain from start to finish. But moving on beyond that, if a country wants to ban Bitcoin because of these reasons I continue to show over the past few months, it's going to be very, very easy for them to do, whether it's for your safety or whether it's to ban the illicit use or whether it's to ban the corruption or whatever they're going to label it as. It could easily be one of those issues that they use and choose to ban it from your nation. Doesn't matter which country it is. We've shown that over and over again. China bans it, they bring it back. India bans it, they bring it back. On and on. Okay, moving forward. The wealthy and highly educated investors are buying 2 altcoins over Bitcoin, according to the banks for international settlements. And as you get into the article, the 2 altcoins that they are discussing is XRP and Ethereum. And I think a lot of people wouldn't mind Ethereum so much if they would at least, adjust their fees, as currently it is very, very expensive to send any Ethereum or ERC20 tokens. So British banking giant Barclays bans payments to Binance, citing an FCA notice. And Barclays has started blocking all credit and debit card payments to cryptocurrency exchange Binance, and stating until further notice. So we'll follow that and see where it goes. And Flare, this is an article, sets out to land for the 200 billion as it's written Spark token distribution to XRP holders. I think a lot of people understand that they're distributing 100 billion. I haven't seen any change of that. I believe this is just the author, Gracie Perez, probably an accident, not paying attention, that she probably meant 100 billion Spark tokens. Can't speak for her, but most likely that's what happened here, just for the record. But as we know, we've shared this, and if you're familiar with how Twitter works, if we share an article, many times we're not on Twitter when we're sharing, we're in research, and I can just click the link and share directly from Twitter. Twitter, if you're not familiar with it, there will be a paragraph above the link. Twitter writes that. We have nothing to do with that. So we've had a few people question why we wrote the 200 billion knowing that it was only 100 billion. When we're sharing a link, we see something and we understand it's the author, a slip of the tongue or an accident or whatever they're going. The thing of this article for me, I think anyone who holds XRP, who was involved with that, they understood it was the equal amount of XRP. You're getting what you're getting. It doesn't matter if they said, 400 quadrillion. You're still getting whatever your flare drop is. You can't help sometimes what the author may write, whether they misunderstood or whether it was just an accident. Sometimes those things happen. And I'm sure this person will correct that and make that adjustment. But I think the reason that we shared it is, again, we have so many new investors who were asking about Flare. What is it? When is it getting distributed, etc., and on and on. So we just shared this because it was really simple. And again, the Spark distribution plan right there. Flare recently announced the official distribution plan for the much-awaited Spark airdrop. According to the announcement, as soon as the Flare network goes live, eligible XRP holders will receive 15% of their claimable Spark tokens instantaneously. The remaining Spark tokens would be distributed 3% per month among the XRP holders. This period will last for a minimum of 25 and a maximum of 34 months. Again, that is the major question right there that I'm asked over and over and over again. So I think it was great. That is the exact reason that I shared it right there. We know sometime they were supposed to start distributing in June. We're now in July, so we'll see how this goes. Obviously, there's a delay with their rollout, so we'll see how this plays out. And again, guys, these things can happen. Gracie Perez, I'm sure she'll either correct that or make it a correction, or possibly she just did an error or misunderstood. Can't defend her any further than that. Good luck, Gracie. So the Philippine Stock Exchange wants to be the site for crypto trading when it's approved, according to the report. The PSC is just awaiting guidelines from the Philippine SEC and other regulators. So the PSC wants to be the platform for trading crypto assets when the country's regulators issue the long-awaited rules for governing the practice. PSC President and CEO Ramon Monzon told CNN that management first discussed the idea of setting up a domestic crypto exchange 2 weeks ago. The PSC has both the trading infrastructure and investor protection safeguards that Monzon said are necessary to trade cryptocurrencies. And then Monzon told CNN that mounting interest in cryptocurrencies means the Philippines cannot ignore them anymore. And the PSE is currently awaiting guidelines from the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission, the PSEC, which began seeking comments from banks, investors, and the public in 2019 on whether the country should begin building a domestic crypto exchange. So again, you can see adoption. It is coming all over the world. You hear CBDC, crypto guidance, crypto holding. The banks are getting involved. Like Christine Lagarde said, you will adapt or you will cannibalize yourself. And she reiterated and reinforced her statement, saying, yes, that was a very vicious way of stating it, but it's exactly what she meant. I want to mention that StorX SRX is coming to BitTrue. We will soon support the StorX SRX trading on BitTrue, and SRX is a project of the Zenfin ecosystem. And also, too, a little bit more momentum for XDC Zenfin network. Bitmart is now listing the Zenfin network XDC. So, guys, the platform will go live on July 8th, 2021. So we have about 3 days, and then it will go live at 4 a.m. EDT trading time, and trading available on Bitmart from the Zenfin network XDC. A little stumbling over my words tonight, guys. A little tired. Hope you had a great holiday and a great weekend. And before we go, like always, I want to leave you with a final thought. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And remember, this is not financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. I want to say thanks to our VIP on Patreon, Surfmeister, and to each and every one of you. Please hit that like and subscribe, and we will catch you in the next one.